Okay, it says it's setting up the meeting.
It's been sent to a third party.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's like delayed. Okay.
I'm sure we'll catch up.
Okay. So let's see if it shows up on YouTube yet. Surprise, everyone. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this with everybody. There's one person watching. It's probably me.
I was going to say hello to that one person, but we'll be saying hello to ourselves.
Okay, so surprise everybody. We want to talk about the energies today. So let's see if there's anybody in here yet. There is, I think. Okay, so yeah, awesome. 29 people. So hi everyone. And we just wanted to talk about the energies today. Next month I'm going to be in the UK. So
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So that's going to be really good. There's going to be so many of us there. We're really excited to meet everybody. I'm just excited for the world right now. Like, I feel like there's going to be so many changes that have happened by then. And people are going to be kind of it'll almost feel like we're floating, what it feels like to me, because so much will have happened. So much has happened just now, like already. So it's been really wild. But yeah, so we hope to see you at the ball. You can get a ticket just for the ball if you want to. And if you live in the UK, then it's easier, But I keep thinking, I wonder if the trains are going to be available.
I know you've been saying that the whole time we've been planning it. Like, I don't know if the trains are coming. I feel like the trains are going to be there. And I just flow with it. I think that's like part of what we were talking about with the energies at the moment, because I did spend a lot of time before. Maybe it was because I was a bit younger or looking for validation. I don't know. But I spent time in the past few years kind of searching for that validation of what I was experiencing in the spiritual realms, in like the human realms, and like looking for it on earth and like figuring when's it going to come and when am I going to see it happen. And I think the more I was getting attached to that ideology, as you tell me all the time over the years, it was pushing it further away from my reality. And so I think the best thing I did was just to let go, and let go of the anticipation, let go of the like not fear, because we should never be in fear anyways, but like that, is it going to come? What happens if you don't? What happens if it's not at this time? Like the human attachment that we create to things, and that we've created to, things like the financial system and, the traveling system and the way that the world's going to be. Obviously it's changing, because look at how much has changed. That's all we have to actually do in the first place. However, the time in which we thought it might happen, and when we thought certain things would be out by, and when we thought certain healing technologies would be out, and all these different things that we've all been kind of talking about and channeling in over the years, they are slowly starting to like seep in now, and they are slowly starting to submerge. But I think the best thing for us to do is to keep on reflecting inside and not reflecting the attention outside on the outside world. Obviously we have to look at what's going on and be aware of things, but there's a kind of a line, I think, for me personally, that I had to draw when it comes to my human gets very attached to things and very excited about things, and puts a lot of energy into things. And so when I was getting attached to things happening at a certain time, it was kind of stressing me out a little bit if it wasn't. So now I kind of just think, do you know what? Like you say, honey, everything is going to be how it's going to be. Everyone's going to be how they're going to be together. The event's going to be how it's going to be. It's everyone that's meant to come there is called there for a reason. And it's the same with all this stuff going on in the new earth. You guys are having a lot of physical action at the moment with the politics and stuff like that. So that's really speeding that confirmation up, I think, for a lot of people in that human realm in America. It's quite exciting, really, to see the change happening at such a rapid pace.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was told not to purchase any kind of ticket until mid-November.
Yeah.
So, but I've been getting the hit to purchase accommodation for the second place that we're going. So I'm like looking into that now and figuring out where to be. But it's just been very exciting. And this is very go with the flow. You know, it's been, I feel like we have been pushed to the limit of go with the flow as a group.
Truly.
Especially humanity in general. But trying to do things during this time has been really challenging. But I do think that we're going to be ready to celebrate like massively in December. So I'm so excited.
I am. I'm really excited. And, you know, I was reflecting the other day on, I've spent a lot of time over the years feeling quite lonely and quite isolated. And, you know, I've been sharing a lot on my own platform recently, like how I've gone through quite a lot of grief, not physically passing over people. More so, I did lose my little nana, but it was more so grief of like past self and grief of the times where I have kept myself small to belong in groups of what I perceived as like my people and community. And actually I was sacrificing a lot of myself to be there. And the reason why now I'm kind of getting so excited is because I don't feel like I need to belong in these smaller groups anymore. I don't feel the need to like be a shrunken, trapped version of me just for any form of connection, because now I feel like I've actually got true friends and soul family and people that I can actually connect with and be so authentically real and honest with, and just truly in his own vibrational energy, and just be held and hold each other so beautifully. And I feel that's what I'm so excited for, is to be around, you know, yourself and all these beautiful souls that are coming. And every time we've had to get together in any way, whether it's been on any of the retreats or events I've run before or anything where we've all got together, it just truly feels like magic is in the making. And I know that sounds quite cheesy, but it really does. Like, it just feels like, because there's so much powerful energy. Like, think about it, we're all little light warriors, we're all activators, we're all little points of the grid of energy. And then when all them points of the grid of energy come together in one space, it's like a powerhouse magnet or battery, or, you know, something that's just extremely powerful. And I feel like that's what gets me really excited, is that feeling of knowing that it's getting closer now and everything's becoming more real and things are getting brought into the physical world, and it's now becoming like tangibly excited for everyone to get together, and now it's there, we can see it.
Yeah, it feels really good. I feel like there's going to be so much getting together this next year. So like in December, I feel like it's going to be started, because things will have been at least shifted quite a bit. And then all the way through 2025, I feel like we're going to be getting together a lot, in a lot of different countries. People will be together.
I agree.
Small groups and big groups, and just amazing stuff. Yeah, it's going to be so fun. And this is when we're going to get started on our projects. So I see like a huge kind of calm period from December all the way into like April.
Yep.
And then it's going to be like, get stuff done, you know, and everybody's be kind of active. But I do think we'll get a chance to just kind of breathe, you know, because some of us really need that, and to start to shift.
I definitely do.
Doing next. I'm excited for that.
Do you see like hubs? I see potentially like energy hubs and centers just all like starting to be built all over the world, and, you know, people with their own visions and people with their own energies and everything that they're bringing forward. It's like I see all these little spiritual hubs, and it's like we can just travel from home almost with these soul families, and oh, my hand is spilled, and with these beings, you know, it feels like a sense of real, because I sometimes struggle traveling because, you know, I have that anxiety a little bit of like, oh, well, is there going to be everything I need there, especially with the child and like the people, and, you know, there's all these different thoughts that come into it. And then when you travel to kind of soul family, you notice the difference, because you notice the sense of like support and energy and love that is poured into each other. And I feel like that's what's going to be created around the world, is like little hubs of community where we can just lean on each other and kind of travel a lot more, because it's not this stressful anxiety. I mean, not all travel is, but sometimes it can be, you know, an overwhelming experience for a lot of people. And I feel like that's one of the things that's going to change, is obviously the method of transport, but then also, you know, when we go these certain places, I think there's going to be so much more community available than there is now.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And a lot of the projects will create community. Yeah. I know mine is pretty community oriented, and that will be really fun. And people will have multiple projects. Some people, their project is themselves, and their own like radiating of beautiful energy. And they could be like in the forest all day, resetting the land there, helping the trees, like it. So don't get caught up in, oh, what's my project? And
that's a good point.
Because it could just be about you.
I think that's a really good point. I think people get lost there a little bit, you know, like a lot of us, obviously me and you specifically, we are drawn to share publicly, and we are drawn to be a vocal voice and spread seeds, and kind of, I like to go through things and then share ways on that people don't have to experience it as intensely or as long and drawn out, you know. And if I figured it out an easier way in the end, I like to share reflections of my experiences and go through things to teach others, or not teach, but, you know, set like a blueprint to help others. And I feel that sometimes then people look and think, oh, well, what am I meant to do and what's my purpose? And like you say, I think sometimes what we forget is the biggest purpose of all is a frequency holder, a space holder, a energy worker, someone who's here to raise the collective consciousness by just being an energetic being of that frequency. And to do that, you maybe can't be online all the time and can't be sharing and can't be doing all this attention to all these human things, when you need to be simply in that vibrational frequency consistently to maintain that consistent frequency of what energy you're bringing into the earth. And an older lady said to me, I never seen the value in what I did until we had that conversation and explained it. If she wasn't doing what she was doing for 20, 30 years, souls like mine wouldn't have been able to then come in the next generation, because it would have been too dense. So her work and the work of everyone doing this now is allowing these souls on a different frequency to actually come into the earth plane. So like Honey says, please don't ever feel that your role is not as valid if it's not in the public eye, or if it's not a physical project, or if it's not a centre of healing or something like that, like what we're drawn to do. It's because everyone's got their own puzzle piece, and no one is more important than anyone else is, you know?
Absolutely. So I want to mention too that the timelines are going to separate. So there's like some back and forth in the chat about,
interesting.
There's some hard things that are happening that we're seeing, and then there's some not so hard things that are happening. And we're choosing which timeline we want to be on right now. So keep that in mind. So some of the timelines are completely cleaned up, and people are ready to go into a totally different kind of world. Some of the timelines are not cleaned up completely yet. So choose what works for you, figure out where you're at emotionally and what timeline you want to be in, because they're going to start to separate pretty soon. Again, they are primed for separation right now. So the multiverse is going to start to split apart again, and you want to be on the highest timeline for yourself right now. So just kind of thinking about that, tapping into that is an important thing right now, I would say, because as these events unfold, then we're going to start to see the separation really get more and more pronounced.
Interesting. So the way I interpret that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you finished?
Yeah.
The way I interpret that is, obviously, you see, it's pretty self-explanatory that we've got multiple timelines merged together. But the one thing I wanted to ask there, honey, is we have so much emotional purging going on, so much shadow work, so much trauma releasing, so much. I've noticed that all these outdated patterns, all these old programs, cellular memory in my human body. It feels like, if I'm being brutally honest, over the past few months, I've not felt as consistently grounded and stable and, you know, in my emotional sense of grounding energy that I have been before in my spiritual journey and in my healing journey. It felt like, I know it wasn't a step backwards because I know it was a deeper layer, but on a human level, it could have been perceived as like, it felt like a bit of a step backwards. So I just wanted to clarify that out there for anyone in the collective that panics a little bit when they hear that statement of, you know, choosing the timeline and how we do that, because I think sometimes it is difficult to not be aware of things around us, especially if our family, our friends, the people at work are like constantly bringing certain things into our consciousness. It can be difficult to clear out the mind and be like, okay, which timeline am I choosing? And I think there's a couple of things there that I do to kind of help counteract that and balance that. And it can be things like, I do not consent to this in my timeline. And that's things like when people tell me, oh, did you hear so-and-so on the news? Or did you hear this negative energy? I simply just say, listen, I don't consent to that in my timeline, you know, and I just instantly cancel it off from entering into my reality and into my timeline. There's also the ways you can do in terms of being aware that when your emotions are dysregulated, it's not necessarily meaning that you're choosing a lower timeline. It's meaning that there is things that need to be pulled out for you to expand deeper and raise to a higher timeline. But it's the way you perceive it that is important, because I can be quite a self-critic. And I don't want people here that are also kind of working towards raising the timeline to think that if they're in emotional dysregulation or if they're around people of lower frequencies sometimes, that's forcing them to choose a different timeline. I think it's about being aware of what's being brought up for you and how much you allow that to affect your daily decisions and your choices moving forward. And I do think there's a lot of things we can do to kind of influence the external world to our internal frequency.
Yeah. And I think realizing that it depends on where you're at emotionally and what you're watching too. So if you're watching intensely negative things, then there's something inside of you that still needs to be healed. And the fastest way up is in. So the fastest way to go upwards in the timelines is inside of you. So dealing with your own stuff. And we get very distracted sometimes by everything that's coming at us. And I know I have to pull my energy out quite a bit because there's so many messages and so many things that are coming at me.
Yeah.
That I have to say, okay, I need a break, and I have to take all the cords off and make sure that my energy field is clear so that I can focus on my own stuff. But there is a huge amount of processing going on in the astral plane right now with people's trauma. So it's like,
I agree.
We're dreaming about it and remembering it the next morning and thinking, wow, that's a memory I haven't thought of in a long time. And in my timeline, pretty much we're just watching a movie at this point. Things are cleaned up. Things are moving forward. And there is a lot of mention of LA in the chat. I've been there, and there was a lot of cleanup done there. So, and remembering that everything is energy is really important. And a lot of work was done while I was there with a lot of other people. So it's important to know that things are not as bad as you're being told, unless that's the reality that you're in right now. So just kind of keeping all that stuff in mind. Like, what resonates with you? What do you believe is still happening? And if you're seeing a lot of negativity, what inside of you still needs to heal?
Yeah, that's true.
So thinking about that, like, what is it inside that isn't healed yet, that I'm seeing this because I need to heal it within me? And it's a big concept. It takes a while to get to that concept. But honestly, we are consciousness.
Yeah.
So we're all consciousness in a body, and everybody's eternal. So working on our consciousness, because we're in ascension right now, so that we can ascend into the new universe inside of our body. That's kind of our biggest job.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I think sometimes it's just putting it in words that, you know, because I think in the spiritual community, there's a lot of things that can sound more complicated than they are. And, you know, when we start talking about quantum timelines and different things like that, I think people, in my personal opinion, this could just be my opinion, but I think, well, I used to get a bit overwhelmed, and that's probably why I have this opinion. And so I like to just simplify it a little bit like you just did there, and explain that those that are experiencing these really kind of sad, negative things, it is for a reason, and it's because they're at that level of healing right now. And that sounds really kind of harsh, but we've all been at some place in like that in our own lives, whether it was physical health, mental health, financial suffering, emotional suffering. You know, we've all experienced some form of dark night of the soul to get to where we are in our spiritual evolutional journey. And that is what a lot of these collective on lower timelines are experiencing at this moment, is their dark night of the soul, to be able to rise up like the phoenix from the ashes. And a lot of us, like you said, that are on the higher timelines have already been through that dark night of the soul. So there is no need to have to repeat and regurgitate that same frequency when we are now holding space for those to actually come out of the other end of it when they've been through their dark night of the soul. So it's all for a purpose, and it all has reason. But I do think sometimes just simplifying out, like we did a little bit there, on how you can work on attuning your frequency to a higher timeline, which is simply about doing the internal work. If you're having an emotional dysregulational chapter, that's probably bringing up some things that need to surface to be able to higher your timeline. So don't view it as a bad thing or a setback or a lower timeline. View it as actually an opportunity to get into a higher one. So it's all about perspective. That's kind of the point I wanted to make there. So yeah, thank you for adding on to that. I think that made me feel energetically better.
Good. Yeah. We really are seeing a lot of different things right now, a lot of different things to choose from too. So really paying attention to how you feel in your body, and whether it feels wrong to you or not is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
So, yeah,
what a wild ride it's been though this year. And also, like, just looking back to when I feel like, you know, I've been consciously working towards all this stuff since 14, 15, but being more aware of it since being like 18, 19, you know, and then later on in the 2020 time, it feels like it was not that long ago, but it's also such a lifetime ago now. And like the expansions to where we all are now, and where everyone is as a collective, and where we are in the physical world, like, it kind of shocks me a little bit sometimes, you know, like the difference in where we are, the evolution. I feel really quite proud of the collective, and really quite proud of how the human race and what we've done as beings in this ascension. As we mentioned many times before, we've never got this far before. And so this is truly something to be so celebrated, of the accomplishment of what it's actually taken to get here, and what it's still taking to get here now from all of us every day. That doesn't go without being seen. You know, everyone's individual pain that has purpose, that leads to evolution, does have a bigger part of the picture. So just know that on the days where it is kind of real dark, know that it is going to help bring the overall light for everyone. So
yeah, and cleaning up your stuff as you go, as it comes in, and not hanging on to it is important. So just being willing not to judge it so harshly. Some of the experiences from high school came up in the astral plane for me. My inner child is kind of clearing out her stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was stuff that she was really mad about. And to be honest, I forgot all about it. So, it came up in the astral plane and it was the memory so clear. And I knew that it was being dealt with.
Yeah.
So that's important. And I want to actually say something because somebody asked, will our family who don't ascend remember us? So this is from Tammy.
That's a very deep question.
Yeah, everybody will ascend, whether they ascend in their body or not. So remember that because it's consciousness that's ascending. So the human soul group is ascending right now, and they will remember. So this is a big lifetime, and you will see them in the astral plane, and you will see them as the veil disappears. So we have a big attachment to everybody around us a lot of times. And that doesn't, that's kind of like, oh, well, I can't go further, or maybe they'll not make it. That
was a thing for me. That was a thing for me, for sure.
You will see them. And everybody has their own journey. Yeah. So I think that emotional attachment or quantum entanglement is something that's been really encouraged.
Well, I think that's part of, like you say, it was one of the greatest tricks to keep us in 3D. But it does lead me to a question, because there is still a slight part of that program. I feel it, that little twang that exists within my human system, because I am deeply rooted to my human family here. And I suppose the question I have is, following on from this wonderful person's comment, is, so what does it mean in terms of, obviously I know everyone will ascend, but will they have the opportunity, first of all, to live out their own human lifetime? And if so, what does then that look like in them living out a timeline that's not on our timeline? Like, does that coexist and we kind of overlap sometimes and we kind of just see each other every now and then? Or is it like a coexisting reality of like, we're on our timeline, there and theirs, and then if we choose to consciously connect, we kind of had an integrated experience? Because that's how I see it, but I would love to know how you see it.
So most people that we're close to now, they'll either upgrade and you'll see a higher version of them if you choose to stay, as far as stay connected. So we worry a lot about families, and most of that is going to be taken care of over time as we level up and level up and level up. Now, if somebody chooses to leave, if somebody chooses to bow out, then they will do it during a time when there's a big level up.
Yeah. I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean they'll completely disappear from your reality. It just means that you won't be as connected.
Yeah.
And if it's in their body, then they'll keep moving up. It just may not be as rapid.
Interesting. Okay, that does make more sense, because, like you say, obviously we're going to have potentially those that stay in a human body and then raise their frequency at a similar-ish pace to our evolution. So we have the same similar-ish experience in the human body. And then, like you say, you have some that do choose to not ascend in this body. But then, as we know now, I mean, I work with spirits. A lot of us work with beings and multiple dimensional beings that are not in a physical body, and we still feel connected to them, and we still feel a knowing with them. I feel deeply connected to my granddad, and he's been passed since I was 4 years old, and he's one of the closest people to me in the spiritual realms. However, there is still that longing for physical human connection and like physical conversation and, touching each other and hugging each other, like that human connection that makes us human. Do you think that will be more amplified as we get like higher into the ascensions? Like, we'll have more of an ability to sit down and physically conversate with them rather than being astral state together?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It will just keep,
expanding.
And expand. So this kind of goes along with that. Somebody asked me about what Ormus gold I was talking about the other day.
Ooh.
And this is it. So it's called, that's terrible.
Ooh.
It's called Joy. I am Joy brand. Ormus gold. And I am using much less than they recommend.
Okay.
Okay. It detoxes the pineal gland. And I will say it will keep you awake. And I'm taking probably like an eighth of the dose.
The recommended dose. So can I ask your higher self a question? Do you get that it is safe for pregnancy or breastfeeding humans?
No.
Because a lot of detoxing things are not. I mean, I haven't detoxed in about 3
years. Yeah. And I think that, so I had a day where my eyes were really swollen.
Yeah.
And I know that the energies were pushing to clear the pineal gland, but also I had just taken this.
A bit of an extra push.
For that to equalize, because my eyelids were really swollen. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take this during the day from now on, because not only that, it kept me awake.
Yeah. So it's probably not recommended if you're already going through some sort of transitional period. And the thing is, when you're, I can speak from my own experience, when you are pregnant or breastfeeding, your body naturally detoxes anyways. So I don't personally worry. Like I said, I physically don't think I've detoxed for about 3 years now. And I used to do it every like 6 months or, every couple of months. I used to drink a lot of different teas and herbal detoxes. And obviously I haven't now for a long time. And I don't personally feel any different. I don't feel like I need to. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. So, you listen to your body and you'll know what you need.
Mm-hmm.
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So one thing, so somebody's got some blurry vision. I would definitely try and get your eyes to refocus and see what's going on. But I noticed that minerals are massively needed right now. So I took niacin the other day. I think it was yesterday. And it took forever for the flush to show up. So I was really annoyed by that, because it was like 2 hours later. And then that night I put on my magnesium lotion, which I do before bed to kind of help sleep. And it's really good for you to have your magnesium. And my body sucked it up. So all my pores really wide. It burned and it never burned. So
it's burned for me once or twice before, but not often.
Yeah, which means your body's like, yes, I need that now.
Yeah. So it's helping you absorb it faster.
Yeah, just being aware that with all these energies pushing through our bodies and stuff, the minerals are getting depleted. So minerals are massive.
Huge. And I didn't realize the importance of them. Like, I went through my whole pregnancy with Phoenix and I only used like the spray of magnesium, and I had extreme morning sickness the whole way through, and it was really bad. And this time I've just thought, I didn't realize the importance of educating myself truly to actually go deeper into, I take all sorts of different supplements now, from magnesium to this wild nutrition for pregnancy and breastfeeding, and it has about 10 million different natural supplements it's all organic, natural, wild supplements. And I've really noticed the difference. Like, I've still got the extreme sickness for some reason. I just seem to experience it, but it feels less intense, less long in the day. All the little things feel a lot better. And I do actually have days where I'm not sick. So it is a great balancer out. And if you go to the medical system, they're not going to tell you that morning sickness, or HG, which is hypergenesis sickness for pregnancy, is directly connected to a magnesium deficiency. And yet when you do simple research, it is so extremely correlated. And I do believe it's because my body was so depleted on it that the more I must take, double the dose that I was taking with Phoenix before, and it really does make a difference. So I think remembering, like you say, the importance of minerals, and right now I'm making sure I'm not missing a day at the moment. So I feel like as higher selves are in tune saying, get your minerals.
Yeah, it's and it really affects like the adrenals and stuff. So I don't know if you guys felt it this morning, but I was like, what is all this adrenaline? Right. Where's all this adrenaline coming from? And your adrenals dump minerals when they get stressed out. Yeah. So it's important to just constantly be remineralizing your body right now.
So I had your voice in my head this morning. I was going to take 2 magnesium and I had your voice going, yeah, but your body dumps magnesium when you go into fight or flight. And I thought, yeah, I better take 3 today. Like my brain literally had your statement in my head because I thought, but you're right, when you're higher stressed or more in fight or flight or you've had an argument with someone or whatever, your energy is more heightened, then you do dump more of your minerals because it's like your fight or flight response. And so making sure you are listening to your intuition on how much you need and when you need it, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, and we're not doctors, so we're not recommending anything.
Yeah, we're not doctors.
Also, if you're just kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? I totally lost it.
That happens to me quite often.
Okay, the waves of energy that are coming in. So that's what I was feeling this morning, and it went on for a couple hours, and I kept funneling it out, and all that.
I had that yesterday, all day yesterday,
and it's part of what's happening, just with everyone. So that is affecting the adrenals, and I think the adrenals are the organ that's probably been the most affected through.
Yes.
And
yeah. So is that directly connected to the nervous system too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's like what I get my issue. Oh, there's all this energy in my body. Where is it coming from? And it's like, just get all the stuff out of you that you don't need anymore.
You know what I wanted to ask you actually, because I don't like diagnoses and human terminology of self-fulfilling prophecies and labels, blah blah. However, sometimes they have a role in understanding the brain and the human things. And if you were to categorize any form of thing, my brain definitely functions in a hyperactive, like ADHD mode. And I watched something the other day that said those people that experience that are programmed from different types of humans than those that don't. They are programmed from those that lived in more hunter-gatherer times, and they are programmed to be constantly in that hunter-gatherer mindset. So like multiple things at once, being able to completely multitask, hyper-focused on this, and be able to kind of navigate the different energies of being in that environment. And it really kind of resonated with me. I thought, oh, that makes sense. Like, is that an ancestral programming from back when we actually had to be in that hunter-gatherer kind of stage? And those that don't experience that hyperactive, manic kind of ADHD brain, I'm not saying manic in a bad way, I just feel like my brain could literally not stop if I wanted it to. It just could continue forever. And it feels like, is that a program, and it was even things like staying up in the night because you're programmed to keep your family safe. And like, it made so much sense, all the little tiny aspects of what you would call ADHD compared to being in a survival mode of the hunter-gatherer kind of human. So what do you think about that?
I think that since 2020, more and more people have become more and more what you would call ADHD.
Yeah, there's a lack of human words, isn't there? But yeah.
Yeah. So as like not hyper focused, but focused on this and then this and jumping over here and jumping over there. And I know I have a very like scattered day. And that's part of being in flow though, too.
It is. But the one thing I really struggle with is consistency and maintaining like a consistent human life, when it comes to like paying a bill or making a phone call or following up on an appointment, like, and being somewhere on time, and like having time scheduling and cleaning the house. And it just feels like sometimes because of the amount that goes on and like the amount of things that I also want to do, I have all these creative projects and all these like ideas and things and like random trip I want to go on that just come, and it's like very impulsive too, although I like preparing and planning. And so it's like this multifaceted, multidimensional version of self that's trying to live in a very smaller human existence. And I feel like that's where I struggle sometimes and get the overwhelm and the decision fatigue and the kind of frustration. And I'm finding that writing lists every day and lists of like what I actually need to do step by step, every single job on that list, and also like then like the side project list and everything that's going on in my head about that project, you know, and just getting everything on paper has seemed to be really helping me stay more in the flow of it and less in the stress with it. Because if I don't get it out and I don't like make actionable progress on it, I really do feel overwhelmed with it. And I think it's finding the balance, isn't it? You know, between this multidimensional self. I love to live there, but then you've also got to be a human and maintain that consistency, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
It is hard, but we're basically balanced between two worlds right now. And that's going to get easier and easier as we move further into what we're creating that's new. And the more grateful you are about all of it, it kicks the negativity out of your brain too.
That's true. That's true.
That's really important to be doing that. And if you're having issues with family, stop talking to them about this stuff and just start taking care of yourself. Let them think whatever they want. When it's time for them to awaken, then they'll come to you. But otherwise, don't look for outward validation about how amazing you are. Just let yourself be amazing and do it quietly if you have a bunch of people pushing back at you. I think that's really important for your own self-care.
Yeah. And you know what? I didn't even have the pushback. Like people, my family was cool with the weird and wonderful self that I am, but I had like constant negativity and constant outdated patterns around me. And like, I don't want to call anyone out, but let's call it what it is. What you would call like borderline aggressive and really, you know, old patterns of not healthy ways to deal with conflict. And for me, it was just like, I am not down for this. Like, listen, I love you guys and I have a lot of love for each and every one of you. But until you're ready to meet me on how I want to be treated and how I expect to be treating you and that frequency, then I'm not here for that frequency, you know? And so whether it is the judgment or the being shut down or, you know, being called by your family or even just experiencing things that you are no longer wanting to experience in your life, you have to take reasonable action to at least affirm a boundary and allow people to either meet you at this new boundary or make a decision on what you're going to do with that, you know. And I think that's a really important place we're at with our families, friends, partners, work lives. You know, we're at the place of crossroads, like the choice and the prioritization of what we want to actually create in our existence.
Yeah. And you can love people and not be attached to what they think about you.
Yeah.
You can love people and not be attached to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because really everybody has to go through their own experience. And I'll just bring this up because we were both there. But we were both in Morocco together, and that's where we met. And on the way to the desert, someone passed away because they ran out in front of one of the cars on their motorbike or moped or something.
Moped.
But when I looked at this soul, because we all looked, all of us healers were looking, like, is this soul okay? What do we do? You know, can we assist? He was late for his next lifetime. He was in a massive hurry, and he went, like most souls will stick around for a little while.
Yeah.
They'll hang out with the family as things kind of progress and there's a, you know, a ceremony of some kind. But no, he just went.
Yeah.
So he was ready. And I think that we don't always remember that this is an experience we're having, and our soul and our human consciousness are eternal.
Yeah.
So we attach too much importance to the experience and make it really big, create big stories around it and big drama around it. And, you know, it is hard when somebody passes, obviously, because you don't see them in the physical, but also they still exist and you will see them.
For sure.
Yeah. So remembering that makes it not so hard. And also they had something to do.
100%,
So
100%.
leave willy-nilly.
No, it wasn't just for nothing. And I think I do struggle with that concept. As I've worked with you around that before, especially when you become a mum. I feel like it becomes even more real. Like you get so attached to this role as a human and this tiny little human that you're looking after, regardless of the fact that you know their souls and you spent many lifetimes together. It makes it so different when you're in this human experience responsible for this tiny little human that looks at you every day for that validation. And also, like when my nana passed this year in April, it was I'd grieved before, but not like this. It was different because it was the knowing that she was free and that she was where she wanted to be and that she was released and she was happy and she was with her husband and everything was beautiful, but also the physical pain of just wanting to ring her and see her and being at a house and then not being there. And, the remembrance, the cellular memory and that kind of shock to the nervous system and that kind of upset that you feel in them first few months. And it was the coexistence of them two feelings at one time, of the knowing and the trust, and also then the sadness and the processing and the grief at the same time. And it was a really beautiful, sad, grieving process. And I allowed all aspects to coexist. I didn't feel like being sad was wrong because I knew she was okay. And I didn't feel like knowing she was okay was wrong because I was sad. I felt like either one was honoring each other, and it was honoring the aspects that we are both a spiritual being living a human experience. And like you say, we can't get that attached that we control it and get too overwhelmed with it, but we can get attached to some form of experience where we love these people deeply and we experience it deeply because that's what we come here to do. But it's to remember that there's more after that their soul is not just that human. That's not them alone. Their soul is who they are, and that's who you have the bond with. Even though your human misses their human, that's normal too.
Yeah, totally normal. And another part of it is that as we progress and we see more, like with this, we see more and our eyes become adjusted because we only see a tiny percentage of the light spectrum.
Right.
We'll understand that we can speak to these people still.
Yeah.
That we can see so much more of what's going on because we see basically 1%, I think, of the light spectrum. So it's a very small percentage that we are looking at that is actually out there.
Mm-hmm.
So remembering that and knowing that we're going to expand on that as we go will start to change our perception of what's actually going on. So
that is true. It is true. Yeah, because I know that being a medium, I think that's changed my whole perspective on life and death as it is, just working with that experience with people over the years. I think that's what affirms the trust and the knowing with like my nana passing this year, knowing that for 100% fact, as much as I know my name in this human experience, I know that all the synchronicities and all her being there is a fact, and her existing beyond the human is a fact. And to me, I think once you have that knowing, it does make it not easier, but nicer in some ways, because you know that they're not, easier, I suppose, in some ways, because you're not feeling like, oh my God, they're gone forever. I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to see that person, know that soul. That's not true, And I think when we know that, it can allow the coexistence, as we said earlier, and it can allow us to be happy in the human experience without that human, if that's the case. Because a lot of us stop living, like my nana stopped living when my granddad passed. And now I know that she'll be continuing her journey together now with him, because now it's like her soul's free from this human restriction, from that conditioning that she wasn't allowed to be living a joyful life without him. Now she's free from that, so she can evolve past that. And it's beautiful to realize that over the years we are going to expand that, and everyone's going to be like a medium, everyone's going to have that attunement, because it is simply a walkie-talkie that is in your system, and it's learning how to attune that walkie-talkie to a spirit realm, I call it, to the realm of spiritual beings, but it's just the higher realms, and it's just setting your intention on who you want to talk to, and having the training on grounding and protection and, awareness with your higher self, really. That it's very a lot easier than it's been led to believe. If you can hear my dad singing in the background, I do apologise.
That's very big.
My son downstairs, he's just like singing away. I can hear him. Like, oh God, Dad.
I love that. So if you're having a hard time with someone in your family who's kind of, so there's like a friction.
Yeah.
This is for Kimmy. So just being really aware that you deserve to be absolutely loved, and so does that person, and perceptions do not have to be the same.
Oof.
So
that was powerful.
Letting go of whatever their perception is, and also them letting go of your perception. And you are able to say to somebody, listen, I see that you have that perception and it's not mine, but I love you either way. Is important, because we've been taught that you have to conform to somebody else's perception in order to be by them. And that is not true. So really knowing that you can love somebody and they may think that you are batty as can be, and being able to say to them, you know, I know you think I'm nuts, but I don't. I'm happy and I love you just the way you are, and giving them permission to just be blinded to whatever is going on around them will let them just stop being attached to what you feel, because what you're doing is you're pushing them.
Yeah. It's like a magnet reaction.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. And that's happened with family and friends and, you know, all of that. And as the parallels separate again, most of us will see a higher version of the person that we're still, you know, in communication with.
Yeah.
So it will get easier.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The life of the person that we've had the conflict with, the life of raised to a higher frequency, or we won't have contact with them anymore. And I think that's kind of what's happened. I've been through that recently, you know, with someone who had a really deep connection with, and I had to come to the conclusion that their version of reality and my version of reality were completely different things. And that's okay, even though it hurt and it got me angry. There was a lot of things that bothered me in the human, but I had to sit with it and release it and know that that's all right. And, you know, we don't need to always have a resolution either, whether that is an acceptance, a releasing, or a conflict. Sometimes stuff does just end. And then it's about being able to reflect on why, sometimes in his own self, and letting it go. You know, there is a lot, maybe potentially a lot of shock things and people and things that are coming out about people you wouldn't have expected. There's a lot of shock things coming out for me about people I didn't expect in my journey. But it's just kind of having acceptance over why this truth has to come out now before we are shifting to the next level.
Yeah. So I just want to address a couple of questions before we go.
Yes.
One of them is about schizophrenia. I believe that you're able to see the whole multiverse at one time.
I always thought that too.
Yeah. So basically, people will learn how to control that as we go forward, and realize it's almost like they're a radio that gets all the channels at once.
Too many at once, yeah. Why do you think they experience that in this lifetime?
They're too open somehow.
Okay.
Their energy field is too open. And it is a contract, but as we go forward, that's going to be recognized for what it is. And people will learn how to navigate that. Instead of...
because I think that's in all realms. Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's fine. And then as far as income goes, start attracting money, because we're about to become extremely abundant. So start just thinking about the beauty that is within you and let it come to you. And maybe you'll have to go drive somewhere and fill out a form, or maybe you'll have to do something small for that to change for you. But I think we're at the point where either people are giving up worrying about it, or they have created a beautiful attraction. Either one of them will eventually manifest the abundance. The stressful giving up, though, is a harder road to manifestation. And it's kind of one that I've seen quite a bit because I grew up with people that were doing it that way. Get to the very end of, being able to do something, and then all of a sudden the way shows up in a very stressful moment. And it doesn't have to be like that. Manifestation doesn't have to be like that. So just being really grateful for what you're doing right now, the things that you have right now will start to attract in the abundance. Yeah.
Do you know one thing you said to me as well that stuck with me, because I obviously have struggled with this for a long time. But what you said to me was, if I asked you if you were protected, you'd say, yeah, no, the energy is always there around me protecting me. So why do you not have the same belief over abundance? And it really made me sit there and question. I was like, oh my God, she's right. Because we perceive money as this physical thing, as this physical external thing, even though, again, going back to what we were saying earlier, the identification of the experience of human, forgetting that we are energy, everything is energy. And so is the concept of finances, concept of abundance, concept of money. And so I'm working on seeing it as a frequency that I'm attuning to, rather than calling in abundance or calling in finances. I've scrapped off doing that. I'm more so working on an attempt to create the frequency within me that attracts that attunement of abundance. And I think that was a really great reflection. And to also just let go of the need to control. Like Honey says, the gratitude is key. I keep banging on about wanting to experience a different quality of life to where I'm living. And so I've actually started to create small pockets of more nature time, more time in beautiful experience, driving 30 minutes for a dog walk instead of walking in the local dog park to actually experience more beautiful things, putting a bit more energy and effort into creating a better quality of life on a daily basis so that I actually receive that in my human experience. So that would be my recommendations. But yeah, I think it's an ongoing journey we're all going through as a collective. If you haven't already kind of smashed that one off, I think a lot of us as a collective have experienced that, and I'm still going through it in some aspects. So don't carry any shame or any guilt. Just let go of the need to control and the need to receive. And remember that we are looked after. Just as we're protected, we're looked after abundantly too when it is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep being as abundant as you can be in day to day. That's really important.
That's a remembrance.
Yeah. And be thankful when you wake up. Like when you wake up, if you're grumpy and, do it replaying all the drama, try and stop doing that. Try and be grateful when you wake up in the morning and start thinking about the things that you're grateful about. And that starts to shift your mind.
Yeah.
A lot of this, it's like reel to reel in the mind. It's like a movie that, is basically like this endless loop. And we don't need those loops anymore. So start breaking them. Yeah.
Totally agree. Great advice, honey. Great advice.
Well, we're going to go, you guys. We want to thank you so much for being here. And it was absolutely lovely. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry about any background noise. I am at my dad's, he's watching my little boy, so it can be a bit noisy in the background. I do apologise, but the taste of real life for you all, bit of authenticity.
That's so good. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, thank you all.